Juliane Koepcke. She fell 2 miles from a disintegrating plane and walked out of the jungle alive. The plane broke apart in midair at 10,000 feet. She was still strapped into her seat when it happened, and she fell the rest of the way to the ground, still buckled in. Everyone else on board died. She spent the next 11 days alone in the Amazon rainforest with a broken collarbone, a deep gash in her arm, and one working eye, walking toward a sound she remembered her father once telling her meant civilization. On December 24, 1971, 17-year-old Juliane Koepcke boarded Lanza Flight 508 in Lima, Peru, alongside her mother traveling to meet her father, a biologist who ran a research station deep in the Peruvian rainforest. Roughly half an hour into the flight, the aircraft flew directly into a severe thunderstorm and a lightning strike, combined with structural issues the airline had reportedly been previously warned about, caused the plane to break apart in mid-air at an altitude of approximately 2 miles. Juliane, still strapped into her seat, found herself in freefall, tumbling through open air after the section of fuselage containing her row of seats separated from the rest of the disintegrating aircraft. She lost consciousness during the fall and later had no clear memory of the actual impact, regaining awareness lying on the rainforest floor, still buckled into her seat, having survived a fall that killed every other one of the flight's 92 passengers and crew, including her own mother. Juliane's survival, while genuinely extraordinary, wasn't purely inexplicable luck. Researchers and aviation safety experts who later studied the incident noted several contributing factors. The specific row of seats she remained attached to may have helped distribute the impact forces. The dense rainforest canopy below likely cushioned the fall considerably compared to open ground, and the storm's severe turbulence may have caused the seat section to spiral downward rather than fall in a direct, high-velocity vertical drop. All factors that combined made her survival statistically improbable but not, in retrospect, entirely impossible. What followed the initial fall became an extended, genuinely harrowing survival ordeal. Juliane woke alone in the rainforest, suffering from a broken collarbone, a severely gashed arm, a concussion, and an eye swollen shut, with no other survivors visible anywhere around her. Critically, Juliane possessed something that proved genuinely decisive to her eventual survival: extensive practical knowledge of rainforest environments, gained from years spent at her parents' remote research station before the accident, where her father had specifically taught her essential survival principles for the specific environment she now found herself stranded within. Juliane made a series of calculated survival decisions over the following days, recalling her father's specific advice that following flowing water downstream would eventually lead to human settlement, since rivers in remote regions typically connect toward populated areas along their course. She began wading through a small stream she located near her crash site, deliberately avoiding walking through the dense surrounding jungle itself, both because the open stream bed offered easier passage than the tangled undergrowth, and because she correctly recalled her father's warning that predatory animals were less likely to be found waiting directly within moving water. Over the following 11 days, Juliane survived on minimal food. A small bag of candy recovered from the wreckage sustained her briefly, while she otherwise went without any substantial nutrition and battled increasingly severe infections in her wounds, including a documented, deeply distressing infestation of maggots that developed within her injured arm, an infection she treated using rainforest survival knowledge specifically involving exposing the wound to kerosene fumes from aviation fuel. She encountered near a piece of wreckage, a genuinely resourceful improvised treatment that likely prevented a considerably more severe, potentially life-threatening infection from developing further. Juliane's ordeal nearly ended in tragedy on more than one occasion. She passed directly beneath additional wreckage from the crash at one point, including, according to her own later account, the bodies of other passengers, without initially realizing what she was looking at given her injuries and psychological state, and she experienced genuine, severe despair and exhaustion multiple times throughout the 11-day ordeal, as her physical condition steadily deteriorated with no confirmed sign of rescue or nearby civilization. On the 11th day, severely weakened and running out of physical reserves, Juliane discovered a small boat moored along the riverbank she had been following, along with a rough path leading to a nearby structure. She used remaining fuel found at the site to treat her wound infection one final time before local workers, arriving at the site the following day, discovered her and provided the food, medical attention and eventual transport to proper medical care that finally, definitively ended her ordeal. Juliane's survival became international news, and she later returned to formal academic study, eventually earning a doctorate and becoming a research biologist specifically studying bats, following directly in the professional footsteps of the parents whose own rainforest research background had, in a genuinely significant way, provided her with the specific, practical survival knowledge that carried her through 11 days alone in one of the most unforgiving environments on Earth. Decades later, Juliane has spoken publicly and written extensively about her experience, describing both the profound trauma of losing her mother in the crash and the complicated, lasting relationship she developed with the rainforest environment that had simultaneously nearly killed her and ultimately provided the specific knowledge and resources that allowed her to survive, a combination she has described as leaving her with feelings about the jungle that remain genuinely, permanently complex rather than simply fearful or hostile. What makes Juliane Koepcke's survival endure as one of history's most remarkable documented accounts of individual endurance isn't simply the statistical improbability of surviving a 2-mile fall in the first place, extraordinary as that specific detail genuinely remains, but the sustained, deliberate application of specific practical knowledge and calculated decision-making across 11 days of genuine physical deterioration and isolation, transforming what could have easily become merely a tragic footnote to a fatal plane crash into one of history's most thoroughly documented examples of a single person's specific expertise and resolve, determining the difference between survival and death. If stories like this, where a lifetime of specific, seemingly unrelated knowledge became the exact thing that saved someone's life when it mattered most, are exactly what you come here for, subscribe to The Grave Details, because history holds more stories like this than most people will ever know.